Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if you're new here. Today's the end of filming my April TBR. March was the longest month in existence. I read so many books, so many good books. It was such a successful reading month. So I'm really excited to go into April. It's blank, and fingers crossed it's going to be another really great reading month. I've got a couple of books on this TBR that I've been excited to get to for a very long time, and a couple more recent purchases. Just all round, I think it's going to be a good time. So my March wrap up will be on its way. I've actually filmed this video the way that I should, having the TBR first, so I'm not filming this video like mid-month when I finish like half the books on this list. Similar to my other TBRs, because these videos are usually kind of quick and there's not much to them, I will be reading the first line of each book, and then we can kind of get a little taste for the book before I go into it and judge it a little bit on its first line before I've even got into it, and maybe do some predicted star ratings and things like that. Always a fun time. Also, just a quick note, my skin is playing up. It looks horrible right now. I was honestly going on to my mum about how my skin has been so good at the moment, and then this happened. So let's just ignore that and get into the video. So I have 5 books to mention in this video, and hopefully I'll get to all of these. In March I read 7 books actually, so I'm hoping that I might be able to get to maybe a little bit of some other ones other than this. Honestly, like, as long as I got all of these read, I would be more than happy. So the first book I want to read in April absolutely has to happen because of a video idea which involves reading this book. It's one I've been putting off for a very long time, but I have been putting it off because it's gonna be a lot of work, but also because the book that I want to read for it is set in the summertime, and I didn't want to be reading it like midwinter. I wanted the weather to be a little bit brighter, and it's finally looking a tiny bit like spring, so I feel like I can now tackle this book. I actually think this will be a new favourite. I'm so excited for it. But yeah, this book is Bonjour, Tristesse by Françoise Sagan. So Françoise Sagan is a hugely famous author. I've actually never read any of her work, but Bonjour, Tristesse is probably her most famous piece. This is actually a collection of 2 of her stories. So Bonjour, Tristesse is only this, like 50% of the book. I've read the first couple of pages. The writing was stunning, so I'm just so excited to pick this one up, and like I said, it's for a video, so if I don't get to this, then something will have gone very wrong. I'm so excited. So I'll read the back because I don't know how to describe it. It says, published when she was only 18, Françoise Sagan's astonishing first novel became an instant bestseller. It tells the story of Cecile, who leads a carefree life with her widowed father and his young mistresses, until one hot summer on the Riviera he decides to remarry, with devastating consequences. So the title actually translates to Hello Sadness, so I do think that this is going to be a little bit heavy as we go further on into the read, but the writing just blew me away, honestly, like to begin with. I just think it was stunning. So let's just test the writing a little bit and read you the first line. This strange new feeling of mine, obsessing me with its sweet languor, is such that I'm reluctant to dignify it with the fine, solemn name of sadness. Like, are you kidding me? This is actually on my 2023 TBR, so I'll also be taking it off that list as well. But yeah, just all around, this is going to happen. It's going to be so good, and you'll hear all my thoughts about it because, like I said, there's going to be a video focused around this book, but I'm not going to give anything away until it's here and ready for you. So that's the first book that I hope to get to. If I absolutely fall in love with her writing, then perhaps I'll read A Certain Smile, considering how short this first book is. So A Certain Smile follows Dominique, a young woman bored with her lover, begins an encounter with an older man that unfolds in unexpected and troubling ways. These stylish, shimmering and amoral tales had explicit sexual scenes removed from the English publication in the 1950s. Now these fresh and accurate translations present the uncensored text of Sagan's masterpieces in full. And so I think, just for the fun of it, we'll read the first line in A Certain Smile. We have been spending the afternoon in a cafe on Rue Saint-Jacques. An afternoon in the springtime like any other. It doesn't hit as hard as the first book, but I'm sure that'll be stunning as well. Now, another book that I would love to get to in April, a book that has just recently been adapted or is getting an adaptation or something along those lines, and that is One True Loves by Tahereh Jenkins Reid. So Tahereh Jenkins Reid is one of those authors that now everything she ever writes is becoming adapted, or has got the rights to be adapted, or is an adaptation. This book is a backlist title of hers. When did this release? 2016. I've heard mixed things about TJR's books pre kind of her little Hollywood quartet that she did, which I've read all of the books of and I loved every single one. So I was unsure whether I was going to pick this up, but then considering like I've read everything she's written thus far, I feel like I may as well just like go back in time and read her early works. And it'll be really interesting, I think, to see how her writing changes across her later stuff, because she's a brilliant writer. Drop my book. She's a brilliant writer, but I think that her writing should be a little bit different in this, because obviously she will have hopefully developed as a writer. This is another book I think that's on my 2023 TBR, but One True Loves follows 2 people, Emma and Jessie, and Jessie goes missing in a helicopter accident just after their wedding, and Emma's obviously very sad about that, and she grieves his loss as though he's died. And then we flash forward to the future, where it's many years later and she is engaged to another person, and she's kind of started this new life for herself. She's kind of moved on as much as she can do, and then one night she's chilling out with her fiance and her husband shows up on her doorstep. Basically about what happens, who she chooses to be with after all this, the kind of like blowout of that experience and like all the emotions that it contains. So I think this will be another kind of heavy book. Because it's TJR, I should enjoy it somewhat. So I'm excited to see how I feel about this. I'm really intrigued, honestly. Okay, first line in this. I'm finishing up dinner with my family and my fiance when my husband calls. Great first line. Like I said, I'm not sure if the movie is out yet, but I saw the trailer for it and it does not look great. It just looks like one of those kind of trashy rom-coms, which I'm a little bit disappointed about. If I read this book and I really enjoy it, then I'll give it a go and I'll let you know how I feel about it. So the book I just dropped on the floor, I've now picked up, and that is Just Kids by Patti Smith. This is a book that has been on my TBR for years and years and years, but I only physically bought it a few months ago when I found it in the charity shop. And I'll hear the stupidest story because I bought it full price online and then I found it in the charity shop. So thankfully I was within the window of return, so I could return the one I bought online and keep the charity shop one. But it was kind of funny how I finally decided to actually pick it up and then fell into my hands at the charity shop. Just Kids is a memoir written by Patti Smith, who is a really famous kind of lyricist and singer, songwriter, and she was in a relationship with Robert Mapplethorpe, who was a really famous photographer, artist in his own right. This is kind of about their relationship, about kind of her rise to fame, honestly her entire life I think, up until perhaps his death. I think that's what it is. Again, another heavy book, you know, putting ourselves through it in April. Spring showers are becoming heavy downpour. This book is filled with photographs of various places and people and things, and so I think it should be a really fun read. And I've been particularly inspired to pick this one up because I was perusing eBay, as one does, and I found the Harper's Bazaar art issue Patti Smith's cover, The Radical Hope of Patti Smith, which has got a huge article all about her. I really find her a really interesting person, so I was very excited to own the magazine. And then I found Just Kids in the charity shop, like I said, and because of the magazine I was just so excited to actually pick up one of her books finally. And then today, actually this morning in the charity shop, I found this. This is Patti Smith, American Artist by Frank Stefanko, and it has a foreword by Patti Smith herself. And this is basically like a coffee table art book with these beautiful photographs of her. A lot of them were probably taken by Mapplethorpe. So I've got like 1,000 reasons why I want to pick up her book, so I think this will be happening in April, fingers crossed. Also, I'm just really into the whole music scene post watching Daisy Jones. Like, it's something I'm always interested in. Music is one of my favorite things ever, but Daisy Jones has definitely like not reignited but encouraged me to pursue that interest in my life. So the fourth book I have to mention here is actually a reread. This is a book that I read in 2018 I believe, so it's been many years, but I wanted to pick this up because it's the first book in a series and I want to finish the rest of the series hopefully this year. But it's been so many years since I read the first book that I think I need a reread to kind of refresh myself, particularly because it is a fantasy book, and that is Caraval by Stephanie Garber. Oh, we didn't read the first line in Just Kids. Hold up. When I was very young, my mother took me for walks in Humboldt Park along the edge of the Prairie River. I think it's hard in memoirs to write the first line, but maybe I'm just making up excuses because I'm already certain I'm going to love the book. Okay, Caraval. I'm going to read you the back to tell you about this, but it's basically about a circus. I remember really enjoying this book at the time. I think I gave it 4 stars or 4.25 because I believe I was rating in 0.25s that time in my life. I think this beginning was a little bit slow, but everything else I just absolutely adored. Okay, so the back says, once a year, the infamous master legend hosts Caraval, open only to those who have been invited. This year, the week-long game is on Legend's glittering Isla de los Sueños, where the winding streets are an elaborate snow-covered maze, and the people are never who they seem. At midnight on the first day, the show begins. Visitors become players. Each of them is vying for the coveted prize, a single wish. All they must do is unravel the mystery of Caraval. In a game where danger hides behind every charming smile, winning isn't without loss, and their wish might be their last. That didn't really tell us anything what this book is about. So basically, we're following 2 characters whose names are Scarlett and Donatella, and they're sisters who always wanted to go to Caraval their entire lives, but they have to wait for the invitation. They finally get an invitation to go, and the game actually ends up being about one of the sisters, so the other one is forced to like complete the task in order to find her. This world, I just remember it being so magical and beautiful, and I don't know why I never read the sequels. I think it was just because I didn't physically own them. I own the sequels now, so as soon as I finish this, then I'll jump right into those. Will be a good time. I'm very excited, especially to see how I think now. But like I said, I remember really enjoying it at the time, so I think it should be a really fun read now. So the first line in Caraval is, it took 7 years to get the letter right. That's the entire first chapter. So the very final book I have to mention here is one that I kind of threw in last minute, and it's because, if you haven't already seen, I just did a video where I picked up and showed you every single physical book that I have on my TBR. All the books I have on my shelves that I haven't read yet. There were many of them, let's just say. I'm talking over 150, so that video was a lot. If you want to see it, please do, because it would make my hard work worthwhile. But in that video, I was basically faced with how many books I own that I haven't read yet. And I was like, okay, we need to just start making our way through my physical TBR. So all these books I've mentioned so far have been on my physical TBR for a little while. But this one has been on my physical TBR for ages. Perhaps before, no, I think just after I bought Caraval, I bought this book. So 2019 maybe. This is Clap When You Learn by Elizabeth Acevedo. So I have no reason to pick this book up other than the fact that I need to take some books off my physical TBR. So Clap When You Land follows two sisters. Actually, you know what? I think we'll read the back. Camino lives for her father's visits to the Dominican Republic, but this year, on the day when his plane is supposed to land, Camino arrives at the airport to see crowds of crying people. In New York City, Yahara is called to the principal's office, where her mother is waiting to tell her that her father, her hero, has died in a plane crash. Separated by distance and puppy secrets, the two sisters are forced to face a new reality in which their lives are forever altered. Now Camino and Yahara are both left to grapple with their grief, their newfound love for one another, and what it will take to keep their dreams alive. It's basically about two sisters reuniting after the death of their father, but I believe they don't live together, so one of them lives in New York and one lives in the Dominican Republic. I think this book, like I said, all these books will be really sad, but I think also very beautiful because it's about this sisterly bond that kind of like is reignited after their father's death. The other thing about this book, the reason why I've kind of decided to pick it up this month, is because it's written in verse, which means that I think it should be a very quick read, which means I should be able to get through it despite it being over 400 pages. And I think this will be a nice break just due to the format from everything else I've been reading. So yeah, that is Clap When You Learn by Elizabeth Acevedo. I can finally take this one off my to read list. And the first line in this might be a bit complicated because it's, oh no, it's alright. I know too much of mud. I think we'll read on. I know that when a street doesn't have sidewalks and water rises to flood the tile floors of your home, learning mud is learning the language of survival. So there you have it. Those are the 5 books that are on my TBR for April. Very, very excited for every single one of them. Definitely Bonjour, Tristesse, like I said, and then hopefully the others will follow. I think it's gonna be a really good reading month. I think that I should enjoy all of these. Oh, I was gonna do predicted star ratings. Let's just do that quickly. Okay, Bonjour, Tristesse, 5 stars. Honestly, I think I'm really, really gonna love this. And if it's not 5, then it's gonna be like a 4 or 4.5. One True Loves. This is a bit tricky, but I would say a 4 stars because it's TGR, so I think I'm gonna love it. But I also think that her writing will probably have improved, so I won't love that quite as much as her more recent stuff. Just Kids, I think we're gonna give this, I'm hoping it'll be 5, but it could be a 4 or 4.5. I'm thinking I might love it a tiny bit less than I love Bonjour, Tristesse, but I think it will be another favourite for the month. Caraval, I think it's probably still gonna be around a 4 stars. I'm hoping it won't drop, but yeah, it might go higher, we'll see. And Clap When You Land is a YA contemporary, so I'm not sure whether I'm gonna be obsessed with it, because that's not usually my kind of thing. I think it could be really moving and impactful, so I'm thinking maybe like a 3.5. That's my prediction. So all in all, a very good reading month. Anything below a 3 is a no from me, but 3s and up, I'm always happy to read. So those are the books. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you want to keep track of me reading any of these, then you can follow me on Goodreads, which I always have linked down below, and on my Bookstagram, where I update you with what specific book I'm currently reading and also me starting it and finishing it and everything like that. It's a fun time over there. I also put a lot of effort into my posts. And then you can also subscribe if you want to see the video for Bonjour, Tristesse or anything to do with these books, including my full thoughts, which will be in my April wrap-up. I'm very excited for this month to come. And like I said, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to give it a thumbs up so I can tell that you did, and subscribe if you want to stick around. I'll see you on Wednesday for another one.